This might be the prettiest notebook I have ever owned, and so it seemed fitting to assign it to my favourite purpose as my reading journal for 2025. From spreads that honour my favourite books of the year, to a place to keep a list of all of the books I want to read next, there's so much I like to track when it comes to reading, so let's set up my reading tracker pages for 2025 together. And also soft launch my brand new rating system. Hi, I'm Erin, thanks for joining me. I have been so excited to get into this journal. This is the heirloom journal from Archer & Olive's Cabinet of Curiosities Spring 2024 collection. It's my first ever square journal, and it's going to take some adjusting to, I think, but I'm liking how much space there is for making lists. I'm in a phase at the moment where I'm enjoying matching the theme of my first setup in a journal to the cover of that journal, so I'm trying to tie in with the beautiful deep emerald green. And of course, when something has a folk art vibe, you can't go wrong with a little bit of a William Morris design. So I'm destroying this calendar that I picked up on my UK trip. This one is full of William Morris's designs, and I'm going to be using this seaweed wallpaper design as the background of my cover page. I'm very grateful to this calendar for its sacrifice for the good of my reading journal. I was also feeling a little burned out from the experience of putting together the mystery journal very, very quickly over the past few weeks, so I wanted to think minimally while I was setting this up. I wanted to go a little bit less hard than I usually do. Also, the sheer size of these pages is quite a lot for me right now. I'm coming from much smaller journals than this, so I thought maybe just having a single page cover page rather than a full spread would be a good way to dip my toe into this journal size and get a feel for it. So the page we're working on here is actually that awkward first page that I usually ignore in most journals. The page that's opposite is the back of the first end sheet that has the nameplate printed on it. We can always come back and decorate that opposite side at some other point in the future, and I definitely want to decorate the nameplate page as well, maybe on a live stream coming soon. Let me know if that's something you'd like to do together. That could be really fun. We did last year and I loved it. I've cut down a piece of origami paper to sit over the top so that the William Morris design is kind of acting like a border. And the gorgeous green doors I've had in my collection for ages. I'm so excited that this one is getting a chance to shine. Something that's new to my collection though is this set of stamps. I got an alphabet set when I was in London from Printing Stamps London, from their stall at the Portobello Road Markets. I got the Chiswick set, which I don't think is available from their website, but if you live near there and you want to check them out, I definitely recommend it. Claire, who helped me out, was really lovely. They're a gorgeous square illuminated style letter stamp, and in my mind, I was going to do some lettering to go with these. I'm stamping them onto sticker paper so I could layer them over the top of what I've already got on the page. And I've been going to italic calligraphy classes lately, so I was planning to challenge myself and try to do some italic calligraphy to make up my heading here, but first of all, I just need more practice. I've only been doing it for like 6 weeks, so of course I'm still learning a lot. But also my felt tip broad nib pen didn't react very well to the sticker paper. It was kind of scraping up a top layer and not sitting very nicely, which made it difficult. So I've resorted to Old Faithful, my letter stamps, and I'm just stamping my headings like I always do. And I think it actually looks much better this way. So far I've got lots of straight edges in this setup, which is very unusual for me, but I thought let's keep it going. And I thought I would straight edge cut this reading journal heading as well. I'm not 100% sure yet on where I'm going to place it, so I won't stick those down just yet, because first I want to put down some elements from the Notebook Therapy Hinoki Into the Library PET tape set. I just picked this up recently and it is so beautiful. I probably should have thought about this before I stuck the door down, but it's okay, the glue tape will allow me to peel it back up just enough to get these underneath. I really like the first theme in any reading journal of mine to feel representative of the genres that I like to read in the most, which for me is definitely fantasy and romance. The illuminated letter stamps are doing a lot of the heavy lifting for me as far as getting us the fantasy kind of fairy tale vibe, and I think the gold frames and the roses of the Hinoki Into the Library tape really are representing the romance for us there. That said, now I've got all this beautiful stuff down on the page, I want to be able to see as much of it as I can. So I've decided to trim down the reading journal header so that we can just reveal a little bit more of the page behind and lose some of that white space. I had a few test runs with the stamps before I jumped into filming, and I found that they work best with the VersaFine stamp pad, which is no surprise, it works best with everything. I still don't totally have the full detail payoff going on here, even with the little stamp pad that they gave me that sits underneath the page to try and get you some squish, but I think it kind of looks like an etching and I really love that. I also still wanted to have a little bit of the italic lettering represented on the page here, so I've actually switched pens. This is the Tom Studio Lumos Duo. I inked it up with the Tom Studio ink in Mallard as well, and that worked way better on the sticker paper than the felt tip did earlier, so that's really interesting. The Tom Studio broad nib worked way better than a felt tip, so go Tom Studio. Now that I'm certain about my placement for all of these things, we can go ahead, peel off the backing of the sticker paper and commit these to the page. And that is the cover spread just about done of the last journal that I need to set up for 2025. And it's not just new journal setup season, it's also the most sparkly time of the year, and you can make it even more shiny with Ana Luisa, creators of fine jewelry and the sponsors of this video. Jewelry is always a classic gift choice, and it's not too late to secure those last-minute Christmas gifts to impress the magpie in your life, or to grab a little end-of-year prezi for yourself, maybe, to rock with your New Year's outfit, maybe. Gold or silver, simple or show-stopping, you can't go wrong with Ana Luisa's range, and with up to 30% off for their holiday sale, you can't go wrong with their prices either. The more you spend, the more you save, so you can polish off your holiday shopping and spend the rest of the year relaxing. Here's a little condensed gift guide to get you started with my current favourites, starting with Harry, the daintiest little barely there bracelet with 3 different length options so you can customise the fit. I can also confirm it's super easy to put on by yourself. Then we've got Bailey, an equally dainty fine band ring inset with tiny stones. Bailey's perfect on its own for a little subtle sparkle, or you can wear it stacked with other rings. I actually think the Harry bracelet and the Bailey ring look gorgeous worn together if you want to really spoil someone. Since most of my childhood years took place in the 90s, I'm currently entirely obsessed with the mood ring. It changes between 7 colours depending on your mood and your body temperature, so it's a talking point, a statement piece, and a vibe check all in one. This is barely scratching the surface of what Ana Luisa have on offer, but speaking of scratching, that's something you never have to worry about with Ana Luisa's jewellery. Every one of their pieces is rigorously tested to ensure they're tarnish resistant, safe, and hypoallergenic, and every product also comes with a 2-year warranty, which means you can rest assured that any Ana Luisa gift you give will be comfy and long-lasting for your giftee. I've left a link to Ana Luisa for you in the video description. Make sure you use that link when you shop the sale so they know it was me who sent you. Thanks to Ana Luisa for sponsoring this video and indulging all of our classy magpie tendencies. Back to the journal, we're almost done with the cover page, but I've been hanging on to this washi tape for a while now, so I wanted to use it. I've been saving it for the reading journal. This one is from Bloomsicle Paper Co., which is an Australian stationery company, and it's from their Duchess Library collection, which has unfortunately sold out. I'm sorry you can't get this one anymore. Maybe with enough demand they'd bring it back. Moving on to my first functional spread, this one's just going to be the place where I list every book that I read over the course of the year. When I set this up for 2024, I gave myself what I thought was heaps of room, and I still ran out, so I'm trying to give myself even more, but because the square journal has such wide pages, hopefully it's going to be enough room. I'm hoping I can fit the whole year in this journal because of its massive page size, but we'll have to see. I've split the page into 3 columns. And I'm just adding a little highlight on every second line on those columns so I can really delineate the writing space. I've used the 800 Tombow, which is a very, very light pink, which you can barely see on camera, and the N89, which is a nice pale grey. For consistency, I'm going to do my headings the same way all throughout this setup, so always onto the sticker paper so I can layer them over things, and always with my fancy little drop capital stamp situation. This one's just going to say books read. Very simple, very straightforward, exactly what it is. And I'm going to letter it twice because I'm going to have this go across 2 spreads rather than just one. So, a heading for each spread. I have 2 stained glass style PET tapes I'm going to be using quite a bit throughout this setup. Both of them are from Notebook Therapy. This one is from the Hinoki Into the Library washi set, and this thinner one is actually from last year's Notebook Therapy Lucky Bag, which unfortunately means it's also no longer available, but there are some similar ones around. BGM seem to have one. I actually didn't get that lucky bag, but my friend Judy gave me her roll because she thought it was so my vibe, which is really nice. The green lace PET tape is from the Washi Tape Shop's Baroque Lace set, and the instant texture this gives to a page is so lovely. And something I always like to do when I've removed part of a page, like I have for the Dutch door on the right here, is to use my little corner rounding tool just to cut the sharpness away from that corner. It makes it look very intentional and kind of like the journal just came that way. I've got these lovely PET Ivy stickers as well from JOURNALSAY. There's something about Ivy that seems kind of magical and fairy tale to me. Maybe it's because they're so very associated with the UK, and I saw a lot of it in the UK. It's not really something you come across much in Australia. I'm using that to add some texture along the top that kind of overlaps a little bit with my stained glass PET, but not too much, and that's going to be the basis for where we put down the header for this spread. this spread is done, we'll flip over the Dutch door and do it all again for a second round. And this time we're going to have some decoration over in the far right column, so that when the Dutch door is flipped to the right, you have a beautiful column of pretty right next to it. I'm going to be doing the exact same decoration and the same dimensions and everything as the previous page, so I'm going to speed through this one since you've already kind of watched it once. Before we get stuck into this Dutch door column of decoration, I'm going to add tabs to these pages, and unfortunately I got so into it my camera stopped recording and I didn't notice. I'm sorry that I've missed quite a bit of this, but let me know if you're interested in how to add tabs to your pages and maybe I can make a dedicated video for that. I've measured out how much space I need for the pages I want to include, and I'm just adding little tabs by cutting away part of each page and leaving a little bit sticking out that I can write the name of that spread on. If you've ever seen one of my monthly reading journal videos, then you'll know that I flip around my beginning of the journal tracker pages a lot. I come back to them and switch between them, so I thought having these tabs might make that a lot easier for me this time around. And since cutting those tabs reveals a little bit of the last solid page that sits behind them, I just thought I'd add some washi tape there so they have something pretty to sit on top of. In the past, when I've done tabs like this, I've used washi tape to cover each one, but I wanted to be able to essentially label them and write on top, so I'm just going to colour them in with my markers instead. I'm rotating amongst 3 colours here, the 192, which is asparagus green, the 761, which is the carnation pink, and my N89 warm grey. And I'm using a sliver of sticker paper to sit behind each tab as I colour it in, so I'm not accidentally getting my marker on other parts of the book. Now that the tabs are all nicely coloured, it's time to think about that little stretch that we haven't decorated yet here. I wanted to represent a little bit more Willie Morris, so I finally busted out this collection of wrapping papers that I've had in my drawer for over a year and still had wrapped in their plastic. I've chosen the corncockle design and I'm going to cut just a strip of that. That's going to be where we anchor our other little stickers. Of course, the William Morris patterns have a lot of detail in them, so you can't really layer things over this too easily, so I'm deliberately making it a little thinner, and that way I'm going to have some negative space on the left and right that I can use to pop a little sticker so it sits a little bit over the edge of this pattern, but also a little bit on the white background, and that way you'll be able to see them a lot better. I'm happy with my decoration here, so it's time to add the headings onto my tabs. This is a little sneak preview of the pages that we are yet to set up. Tabs are all labelled and the books tracker is complete, so let's move on to our next spread. This is going to be my Page Majors spread, which, if you aren't familiar, is the name of my little book club that I run through the channel membership program here on YouTube. Members who join the channel on the Page Majors level have access to my private Discord server. Actually, you have access to the Discord if you're a Jubilant Journals level as well, but the Page Majors have access to a private section where we talk about books and we read one book every month together and then we have a little chat about it at the end of the month. It is so much fun, and I like having a spread just for the Page Majors so I can see all of the books that we read over the course of the year, who it was that suggested them, maybe what my ratings for each book were, because I didn't include that last year, but I think that could be useful to have on this spread. So I'm starting out just by dividing the spread into 12, so I have a little space for each month. I'm using this broken line kind of soft dot and dash system where I just kind of bounce the pen up and down as I go along the ruler, and that gives me a really nice gentle line. It's not as bold as a solid line would be. I'm also using a very thin fine liner, the Pigma Micron 01 for this, so it was always going to be a pretty gentle line anyway, but the broken line does take a touch longer than a solid line would, but that's okay. I'm lettering my page majors onto my sticker paper again with stamps, and I'm going to center weight this time, so my heading will be in the middle of the spread. I'm thinking for this spread I'm going to, in practice when I'm actually using it, place the book cover, probably a full-size sprocket print on this one, and just the name of the page mage who suggested the book and my star rating for it. So I don't need to put a lot of information, which means I can take up a decent amount of room here and still have space to add that stuff later on. And if I need to layer the book cover over the top of some of my decoration, then that's fine too. I have never seen anything like this multi-sided stamp before. This came in the most recent Notebook Therapy lucky bag. It has 3 stamp sides on it, so you can get different designs just depending on which face you use. I'm only going to be using one. It's actually got a beautiful rose pattern. Let me show you a close one so you can see. And I wish I'd put my stamp mat underneath each one of these. I didn't for the first few, and you can see that they've suffered a bit. So you wouldn't think that a little bit of cloth behind the page would help this much, but it really does. And if you don't have access to the official Stamping Prints London one, I'm sure you could just put a microfiber cloth like that you would use to clean glasses back there, and it would probably work the same way. I felt like I needed some more green represented on this spread, so I'm stamping the rest of my letters with a paint marker instead. This one is from the set of metallic paint markers from Ardex. I use them all the time for this purpose. They're so good. I absolutely could have left the spread there, but because I have this stained glass tape, I thought it would be good just to get a little bit of extra juice out of it, so I'm cutting some individual slices off that and just adding them in the space next to my month names. That's the Page Mages spread done, so we're going to turn the page now, and the next couple of things are going to have their own single pages. Starting on the left here with my series tracker. This is the hardest spread for me when it comes to reading journal setups. I haven't found one that works well for me yet. I've really only tried one so far, but I'm going to mix it up for this one. It's quite similar to the style that I did for the Reading Journal of Destiny, which is the reading journal that I set up and gave away on my channel. It might be a little hard to envision given that it is just a table that has no data in it yet, but the idea is that the left column is for the name of the series and the right column is a space to put like boxes for however many books there are in that series, and it's variable. So obviously if it's a series with a lot of books, you can take up several lines if you need to. If it's a series that only has a few books, then you can just use as many as you need and black out the rest. I really like coming back to my series tracker page when I have nothing lined up in my library holds and I'm like, what should I read next? I'll come back and have a look at this or at my maybe next page that we'll set up soon and just see what's there and then maybe be like, okay, well let's do another one from a series so that I'm working my way through. Definitely stay tuned if you want to see how this series tracker page works in action, because I'll be including that obviously in my December and January reading journal update video. Those usually go up in the first week of every new month, so you can look forward to that. If you're not subscribed and you want to see it, maybe you can hit that subscribe button, just a suggestion. The same goes for all the other spreads in this setup as well. Of course, I'll be populating them all in that video, so something to look forward to. And something I really liked about the way I've done my series tracker page is that it gave me a really nice, dedicated space to decorate in. I quite often fall into the trap of over-decoration, I think, just because I'm having too much fun. And there are no consequences for that, obviously. It's my journal, I'm not going to get in trouble for putting too much into it. But I was trying to go for something a little bit simpler this time, partly to give my brain a break and partly because I think I was a little bit creatively burned out from all of the new journal setups. This is the last one for me, so it was nice to just take it easy. Over on the right side, we're going to have my release radar. I don't know who originally came up with that name. I've seen a lot of people call it this, but basically it's a little calendar style page where you can keep track of books that are coming out in the upcoming year that you want to be ready for. And there are so many books that I am anticipating for 2025. I am really looking forward to First Time Caller by B.K. Borison. Oh my goodness. Also, A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping by Sangu Mandana, which is the follow-up to The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. Can't wait for that one. A Steeping of Blood, the follow-up to A Tempest of Tea by Hafsa Faisal. Really excited for that too. So many good books coming in 2025. I can't wait. And of course, Onyx Storm. Thankfully, we don't have to wait too much longer for that. Definitely let me know in the comments what your most anticipated book is for 2025. I want to make sure it's on my list too. Now, confession time. I think I went a bit too hard with my pretty stamps here. I think I could have toned it back a little bit and just used the normal letter stamps and it would have been better. There's a lot going on here, but it's done, so we're gonna work with it. I really like the letter stamps. I just think that there's a bit too much happening here, and a few of them didn't stamp so well close to the binding, so I'm jumping back in with my little fine liner and trying to tidy that up a bit so it's obvious what the letter is, but it's okay. It's all come together. I still think it's gonna look cute when it's done. It's just, it's a lot. I'm aware. There isn't a lot of room for bigger stickers or decorations on this page. There is a little strip at the bottom, but I didn't want to just slap another bookshelf there and be done with it, so I thought I'd bring in some more colour by adding the old second line highlight. Just going to clean up some smudgies with my white paint marker. It is the best. So I'm going to use the same colours that I used for my tabs. I've kind of ditched the 800 Tombow because it's a little bit too pale for me, and I want some colour saturation here, so the asparagus green, the carnation pink, and the warm grey are just going to give me that little bit of theme cohesion, the colour that I'm looking for, and it's not going to take up any of my planning space. It's just going to highlight my planning space, and I really like that. Look at this restraint. I'm leaving space open at the bottom because I like the negative space. Who am I? This next one is my maybe next spread, which is what I call my TBR because I don't like the pressure that To Be Read puts on me. It just feels a little bit too much like an order. This is basically the same layout as my books read list. It's just 3 columns. I'm adding my highlights the same as I've done for the last couple of things rather than going back to matching the first one because I like the brighter pink more right now apparently. And sometimes I will theme these columns, so I'll be like, these are my fantasy maybe nexts, or these are my romance maybe next, or these are my spooky season maybe nexts, but I kind of stuck to that and I kind of didn't last year, so for now I'm going to leave them headingless and I can add that later if I decide it would be useful. Maximalist Erin is trying to break out a little bit here. I'm adding lots of little elements from one of the PET tapes from the Notebook Therapy set, and how cute are the little Tiffany lamps? I'm a little bit obsessed with those. I'm also including a few of their little book stack stickers and that kind of thing. I don't like to go too hard on including images of books in my reading journal. It feels a little bit too obvious, but I think a little pinch here and there is okay. Like on this bookshelf, it's kind of just more texture and color than being obviously like this is a bookshelf. I feel a little bit funny about that in my regular journal too. Like I don't know that I'm really into stationery of stationery, like little scissors stickers and stuff doesn't really do it for me. I don't know what it is. I do like books as a motif, and obviously there is quite a bit of it in here, but I've tried to make it kind of subtle. Maybe it isn't. Maybe I'm deluding myself. I don't know. Anyway, this is my Hall of Fame I nearly said spread, it's not, it's just a page. In 2024, I had a book bracket in my reading journal, and I didn't love that system. Sometimes it didn't feel like it was a true representation of my favorite books. It was just the best of the bunch of the month. So I thought rather than doing that again this time, I would include a Hall of Fame instead, so that I can just really shout out the books that I love, whether I read 3 books that I absolutely loved in a month and none the next month, or however it plays out. That just feels a bit more authentic to me. And I swear, for me, sometimes I didn't realize how much I loved a book until it's been 2 weeks after I finished it and I'm still thinking about it, and I'm like, well, clearly that was a winner. The right page here I am dedicating to 2 book bingo boards, partly because I didn't include one last year and I wish I did, and partly because I've got the space in this square journal. The pages are really big, so I might as well use it. I'm going for 2 different commitment levels here though for these 2 bingo boards. So the first one we're setting up now is kind of a genre one. I want to push myself to read more widely genre-wise in 2025, so I'm adding a bunch of genres here, and I've left open the middle square to put a little stamp in, and I forgot to do it, so sorry about that. We will do that together in another video, I guess. I'm thinking this will be a 1 book per square kind of a bingo, so if I have a book that is both a classic and a Regency, then maybe it only applies for 1, but I don't know, maybe I'll change my mind on that. We'll see how nice I feel like being to myself. And the bottom right bingo is just a romance tropes kind of funsies thing that I'm not going to take too seriously. Probably the same, I'll probably only do 1 book per square, but maybe I'll change my mind on that. And I'm just adding in the romance tropes like fake dating and Grumpy and Sunshine and second chance romance and stuff like that, because it's fun. And I come across this stuff in the books I read all the time anyway, so it's not out of my way to just colour in a square when I reach one. I don't expect that the tropes bingo will influence my reading choices particularly much, but I just didn't include one last year and I really wished I did, so this way I'm making up for some lost time, I guess. I'm keeping my decoration to the very top and bottom of the page here because this tape fits perfectly in that area, but also I want to leave a bit of room so I can list out the books I read that apply to the bingo squares. And the last one is going to be my bookshelf tracker, and this is going to come as no surprise to you if you've seen any of my recent reading journal setup videos, whether that's the B5 one that I gave away or the traveler's notebook size that I set up for myself back in October when I ran out of room in my B5. But I'm going to be using stamps to set up this bookshelf because it is quick, it is simple, it is actually really easy to get a particular number of books on the shelf with these, which you wouldn't expect, but there you go. I'm going to be using this for dual purposes, so I'm putting a lot of books on my bookshelf here. I'm not leaving a lot of room for little bookshelf decorations. This is a tracker spread, so I'm going to be using it to keep track of things like my reading goal for the year and also the format that I've been reading in. I just think that's interesting data. And for now, I'm only setting up the bookshelves on the left page. I'm going to leave the right page blank, but that means I can expand this if I need to, if I decide I want to track some other stuff. My goal for 2024 reading was 100 books, and I'm not too far off it at this stage. It's dicey, it could go either way whether I hit it or not. So I think I'm going to set the same goal for next year, which means I'm going to make the top 3 shelves of this bookshelf my reading goal for the year, and the ones underneath that are going to be my format tracker. I've managed to put exactly 100 books on those top 3 shelves, so handy. The lower shelves, I've got 83 at the time that I'm finishing the setup for this video, so not quite the same number, but as I mentioned, I can expand that over onto the right page if I need to. And we won't need to worry about 83 books for quite some time, so it's okay. The book stamps are from the Quirky Cup Collective, in case I didn't mention that already, and in the spaces left over I'm going to add some little decorative stamps as well. Those ones are also from the Quirky Cup Collective, but from different sets. I've strategically left just enough room for some washi tape at the top and bottom of the page, and I'm going to move that over onto the right page as well, so that when I do eventually probably need to set up more bookshelf trackers, it's just ready to go. But if I decide to use the page for something else down the track, it's also still just ready to go. The washi on its own isn't quite enough for me as a visual interest though, so I am also going to add some of my ivy stickers, and I'm going to add a couple of little roses from one of the PET tapes as well. decided I don't love the look of my naked tabs on the back, so I'm just going to give them the same treatment I gave the front of the tabs, and I'm also going to label them so it's super easy to navigate through from wherever I am in this beginning part of the journal. I spent quite a bit of time throughout 2024 just flipping between the initial setup pages in my first journal for the year, so I think this is going to save me a lot of time. And I tell you what, coming from a traveler size journal into a square hasn't been as much of a transition as I expected. I've kind of felt like I've slipped into this size pretty well. And having the traveler's journal as my kind of overflow journal for the rest of the year so that I would still get to set up a new journal for 2025 really worked well for me. So I think if I fill this one up and I need some extra space again around September, October in 2025, I'll probably do the traveler size again. Now this little offcut here is the paper that I removed to make the Dutch door back on that first Books Read spread. I'm going to use it for dual purposes. The back is going to be a little grid spacing guide. These are so helpful. I use them in my regular bullet journal all the time, so I thought it would be helpful to have one for this journal. This is an interesting case because the pages have the same dimensions in each way, so it's very easy to set up a grid spacing guide for this. It's just 42 spaces across and 42 spaces top to bottom. It's also really easy to divide into sections because it's a nice even round number, so the halfway point is 21. It also divides really well into thirds at 14 spaces for each third, and you can split it into quarters really easily too if you just leave the top and bottom one, or the left and right depending which way you're dividing it, if you leave those empty and blank, so it will be 10 spaces for each quarter. And I'm adding those divisions onto my grid spacing guide as well. I'm color coding them so it's really easy to see. This idea was originally Tracy Tyler Revell's idea. I stole it and I have been using it unabashedly ever since. She is a genius. And somebody suggested on one of my videos earlier in the year that I could have my rating system, I was using the Corpal rating system, on a bookmark as well that I could move around the journal, and I thought that's genius, and I included one with the Reading Journal of Destiny that I gave away. In my 2024 reading journals, I had this as its own page that I just continually flipped back to every time I was ready to rate a book, so I'm looking forward to not having to do that this time. Instead, I'm going to put my rating system on the back of this grid spacing card, flip it over, and I've actually come up with my own rating system for books for 2025. So I will show you what that is. I'm just going to kind of soft launch it here, but I will be making it its own video too. So if it's something that you're interested in, there will be a reference that you can go back to very easily. And I owe a lot to my cats for this one because I've borrowed their names for the names of my rating system. Also, by the way, we got another cat. We're keeping Peaches. She's ours now. We were cat sitting for my partner's parents' kitty cat while they were away, but she got along really, really well with our cat, so they've decided to actually let her stay with us forever, which is so exciting. Her name is Peaches, and I've borrowed it. I'm using Peach as my fiction rating system. Each of these letters is an acronym, much like the Corpal rating system. I just found it needed to be a little bit more simple for me. P stands for plot, E is for enjoyment, A is for artistry, which is how well the book is written, C for characters, and H for heart, which is that kind of X factor of when a book stays with you, you know? Each of these categories gets a rating out of 5, which you then add up to a total out of 25. You divide that by 5 and it gives you your star rating, which will be a decimal point. You might get like 4.1. You can round it up or down as you see fit, because then there's a little bit of room to kind of go with the vibes, just in case you don't feel like the rating was exactly accurate. And I've also done a version for non-fiction books as well, which is Mitsu, which is my older boy that we've had forever. I don't read that much non-fiction, but I wanted to have the rating system ready to go in case I do. The acronym for this one is M for message, I for insight, T for tone, S for style, and U for utility. Utility is how much it's applicable to your life, I guess, especially if it's a self-improvement kind of a book. And from there, the rating system works the same way as Peach, where each category gets a rating out of 5, comes to a total out of 25, and then you divide that by 5 to get your star rating. I've road tested this rating system a little bit for myself so far, and it seems to be giving me the kind of results that I'm after, so hopefully if you want to give it a try, it will work for you too. It has got me kind of wanting to change my ratings from stars to peaches though, if I'm going to be using the peach rating system. I just think that would be kind of cute. Maybe I should make some stickers. A little bit trickier to rate something out of 5 Mitsus though, so I don't know, maybe we'll stick to stars, we'll see. It's a little bit scary putting a book rating system out there that you've made yourself, but hopefully if you give it a try, you find that it works well for you and you get something out of it. And if you try it and you don't like it, that is okay too. For a final little finishing touch for this journal setup, I'm going to go through all of my pointy pages from my tabs and make them round with my little cutting tool. The ones that I can't quite get into the cutting tool because there's a tab too close to them, I'm just going to cut with scissors, just kind of freehand eyeball it. It doesn't have to be perfect. And with that, my final journal setup for new journal season for 2025 is complete. This is the reading journal. I really went into this one with no idea what I was going to do or how it was going to end up, but I'm so happy with where we landed. And hopefully if you're also using a square journal for 2025, I could give you some inspiration for your own layouts. For the future, hey, if you're watching this in the future, like after 2025, hello time traveler, nice to see you. Don't forget to hit subscribe if you want to see this journal in action. You can come back and see it every month on my channel for the next, hopefully, full year. Don't forget to let me know which book you're most anticipating to read in 2025, and also don't forget to check out Ana Luisa for 30% off your last minute Christmas gifts and your New Year's sparkle. I hope that 2025 is a wonderful year of reading for you. I hope you find so many books that you fall in love with, and I really hope I do too. It's so wild to think that in just a year's time, all of these pages will be full of book reviews. I can't wait to get stuck in. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. If you're keen for some more reading journal inspiration, here's the B5 reading journal setup that I did and then gave away to a subscriber, and underneath that is a link to my traveler's notebook sized reading journal, which is small but mighty.